Okay, great. Thanks. Uh, Ronald, would you like to wait a few more minutes or we should kick it off?
No, I'm fine. If everything is ready, we're good to go. You can
Okay,
start.
all right. Awesome. Hi everyone. So today we'll be having Ronald who will be talking about addressing challenges in South Sudan through open mapping. Ronald is a South Sudanese Wikimedian open stream mapper and a highly skilled professional podcaster and audio storyteller. He has deep commitment to open source tools and open knowledge, and he leverages his expertise in GIS tools like QGIS to address community challenges through open mapping. He's also the leader of the OSM South Sudan team and a member of Wikimedia Community User Group in South Sudan. Uh, I would like to start off with this session, so thank you so much and welcome, Ronald.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Thank you so much. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, so let's start. So, mapping for resilience and addressing challenges in South Sudan through open mapping.
Okay, cool. I guess you can see my screen, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
it's
All right.
visible.
Thank you so much. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. I guess you've been enjoying the other sessions that have been going on. I have, I think, probably around 20 minutes to be able to have this conversation around mapping for resilience, where we address challenges, of course, in South Sudan. Most of us who probably have not known of South Sudan is a country which is in East Africa. Okay, we're still in the debate of whether we should be in East Africa or in North Africa, but I think there have been already conclusions on that partially about how we can be in East Africa. We're still a very new nation, a nation that has struggled with war for almost over 21 years. And not only that, as much as we're grappling with a lot of things that is coming up within the country, in the area of security, education, and other things, one of the main problems that is affecting South Sudan, and of course, the people want together with the country generally, is the issue of the climate changes that are affecting us there. And this is so much exhibited amongst the issues like the floods and drought. Here, I'll be mainly talking about the floods case, because only in July 2022, that's last year, we had an estimate of around 1 million people who were actually affected by severe flooding. And this flooding happened in over 36 counties across South Sudan. That's like covering the entire half, of the side of the country. Also, some bit of the floods actually happened within the city itself, in Juba. And these floods have been repeated. I mean, there are issues concerning the positioning of the South Sudan itself. We know very well that South Sudan's exposed floodplain, the floodplains and Nile Basin, it gives it a very, very susceptible position to be able to be for flooding. So this has caused a lot of lives to be displaced, more especially with over like 490,000 children who have actually been affected. Most of them have been relocated to the southern part of the country right now as I speak in IDPs. But also apart from that, even we have still security issues which have to be addressed on the issue of how safe are even the IDPs within where they are. So, which is a very tragic situation as we come in within the country. And it also gets worse because right now, as I speak, we are within the rainy season in the country. So when you look at the graphs of how we predict on the issue of floods from the former rains to now, there is an increase of the chances of floods happening again when we look at even the graph that we have right now. So we end up having like from September up to December, technically sometimes when like the rains become so tough and the issues of floods become extreme. So right now, as I speak, even a very large portion of the northern part of the country is already buried in underwater. So which becomes extremely, really very, very bad, causing a lot of people to still yet be displaced, and hunger issues. We still have security issues as well. So it's a very extreme problem. I'm just talking about really the extreme part about this problem. But then what have we done as a community in South Sudan? So when you look at South Sudan, particularly the OSM community that is available there that I lead with a couple of people, we operate only within the cities, the city center, because because we have an issue with the security problems within the country. So it's difficult to even get our members from the other part of the country to get involved within our OpenStreetMap community programs. So we find that the only way we can actually operate is within. So most of the work that we do is like helping to be able to remote map those areas. So in partnership with Open Mapping Hub earlier this year, we were able to at least map most of the states that were actually under floods. So this data was to be given to Red Cross, and of course also the other organizations that had come in to be able to take, but also there was one single company that also had put an interest in it. So you realize that most we mapped places like this Malakal, which is in the Upper Nile area, Torit, Lanya, the area of Bor, Jonglei. These are like the places that have really been affected so badly, to an extent that even when we were mapping, there was a point we had a problem. We thought that maybe we are mapping a wrong place at some point, because when you look at the satellite imagery, it was a complete bare land. Yeah, that's a place that um, actually had buildings there, but they have been completely swept off with the water. So yeah, that is like what we have been trying to do, to be able to map out this and then give this data to the organizations. Right now, we still work most with organizations, not with the government, partially with the government, because the government, for now, we're trying as much as possible to be able to have collaborations with them, but there are like a lot of priorities the government is dealing up with right now, that they feel like some of this work should actually be taken up by organizations. So we look forward to see that maybe in the coming years, or maybe probably with collaborations with some of you who have already maybe worked with governments in your country, to be able to help us in devising ways of how to be able to incorporate government in open data and open geospatial programs. So this is it. But as you can see, not a lot of the places have been mapped, because most of us, we're a very small team right now, working just basically on a volunteer basis. We have never received any funding. So we basically do like, we just come together and we're able to deliver this. But still, it's a challenge, coming in together in a country like South Sudan, which not only is facing those challenges, but one of the biggest challenges that we face in the country is actually very slow and expensive internet. I was just checking right now, and I came to realize I've actually increased 1 GB of data in South Sudan goes for at least $30. So it's like, it's very expensive, and you have to really like pay that. And more especially if there's no like support, no resources, it gets really very difficult to be able to participate in these programs. Even in mapathons that our fellow OSM communities are able to organize, it becomes a very, very huge challenge for us. But we look forward to seeing how we can be able to solve this. And also we have a very city-centric operation because of the security issues within our country. We end up operating mostly within the centers, affecting the other datas which are around us. Like for instance, the jotting down locations, like maybe using the Everydoor app or anything to be able to have local knowledge, to be able to get all those specific points. It becomes very difficult. But what you can do, more especially for the other parts of the country, is to use satellite imagery that we use to map those particular places. We also get those maps and be able to see how best to engage the government. Like right now, we're getting the data for the capital city and seeing how we can be able to get the city authority to identify the trash points, like the points within the city that have huge piles of trash, so they can come up with better mechanisms of how to remove that. So yes, that is it. We still also have an issue with funding. There, but of course, it still remains like, as us in a country, one of the main purposes of us to be able to map for unity, progress, and resilience. One of the biggest achievements, I always keep saying this, is it may not be relatable for the other communities, because when you come in South Sudan, one of the biggest issues we had at some point was being divided in tribal lines. But right now, we're excited that we have a group of members within our team who are coming from very different tribes, which for me, I feel like I'm excited of, because it's very difficult sometimes to bring people from different ends, because some of the wrangles within the tribes that we had within the country. So we're able to, so I put on the issue of unity as one of our missions, actually, to be able to be there as well. So our initiatives, we try to work a lot with schools and universities. I mean, to be the easiest part. But of course, as a country, our youth, I don't know whether it happens to your communities, our youth are too busy. So to get them down, to be able to give them training and maybe like involve them in open mapping programs, it becomes difficult. I've seen this easily done in Uganda. And for some reason, their countries are just as easy to get used to get going. We still have a challenge of that. And most youths are trying to figure out ways. They ask you even questions of like, okay, I'm mapping. What is in there for me? Like, how much am I being paid for this and all of that? So it becomes a really huge issue. But of course, what still we want to do is that we incorporate, at least to try to work with our students, but also realize some of the issues with students apart from them like showing some interest, but the issue is devices. So what we did, actually right now, there's something that I've come, I'm right now in Uganda. I've come to purchase actually a couple of laptops to see us on how we can do this. And this we're doing as a community support from some of our resources we're gathering from somewhere. Yeah. So to help us. We try to engage our communities still, but of course, one of the reasons as to why I'm in this call with some of the people like you is to see how best are you, which approaches are you using. The problem, our approaches of what we do is to be able to get to communities and get them, but our South Sudan community still has a very low internet and technology penetration. So how do we make OpenStreetMap information more collaborative and involve the community to be part of this, even though there's a low internet penetration? I mean, one of the ways I've seen is to be able to print out maps and see how people are really identified using the maps. But I would love to see more ideas coming in from our suggestions, and of course, from some of all of us who are actually here as well. So we try to actually engage the communities, more especially by informing them on how best they count in this. I was at the Bureau of Statistics and I was asking them exactly what kind of data do they have right now as far as populations and people are concerned. And our country is running on like a data of like more than 20 for something years ago. So it's a little bit difficult to be able to get that, but how do we engage it is some of the methodologies I really want to get and guidance from a lot of us here. So yeah, one of the aspects we also want, we really prepare, we put a lot of emphasis on is on the area of disaster preparedness. Like we know very well, like what you saw the data before is the prediction of like how long or what is really going to happen concerning the next few years. Most of this data actually are prepared by our assistants plus also other organizations that become part of helping us. But we're trying to look at better mechanisms of, you can say, early warning programs, or maybe how best do we inform communities just beyond the data? How best do we transform this data to be easily understood by humans? Is like something that I really also would love to get involved in. If there are people who already specialize in that, I would love those connections too as well. Yes, we use the most basic tools to be able to do our programs. Of course, still we're not so much into using AI. I attended the session right now, and there's like a couple of AIs within the OpenStreetMap communities, and but we still use like the Everyday app, the OSM and OpenStreetMap ODK to collect our information. But of course, I think one of the things are going to be like suggestions to see how best what other tools are being used, and probably that are really good for you. Our future steps is to see that we actually continue and are able to deliver most of the other services in the across the nation. Of course, this is going to take a little bit of some time, which also needs resources and support. It needs a lot of collaborations from all of us who are here. I would love to see maybe probably after here how best we can see, maybe have one person come to South Sudan or anything. Yeah, really, how best we can be able to help communities that are growing like the ones in South Sudan. And also we're looking at sustainable strategies. Like one of the biggest issues I would love also to address is the issue of community ownership. I mean, like most times when we start this community, it's always like on the person who started it, until to an extent to really devise the vision into the people who are going to be around. But it also takes a lot of energy and time, you know. But there could be other members who have also come up with this. But these are all better ways. I want to see how do I get my community to be able to better own the OpenStreetMap programs. Yeah. So, and then collaborations and partnerships, as I said, at least with NGOs, we're okay, but how do we get the government to be part of this? Is another conversation that we will have also to look at it. We're trying as well, but I mean, we'll have to see if there are better strategies that actually exist as well. Yes, and I want to give a lot of some space for interactions and questions so that we can have this more like a very interactive session. Thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Ronald. It's great to see the different situations that are happening in different parts, especially in South Sudan. So now we will take a few questions. We have about maybe 2 minutes for maybe two questions. Anyone has any question? One moment, let me check the live feed. Okay, no questions on the live feed, but Oyugi says South Sudan, here she comes. I guess we'll be visiting South Sudan soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would yeah.
Yeah, great. So, if there are no questions, I'd like to bring this session to an end. Or
Yeah.
probably let me just hold out for one extra minute. Or if you have any last words, Ronald.
So I mean, the last words from us is that we're still a growing community, a very young community, but a little bit ambitious. So, but one thing that we are looking up to is, I think at the moment, one of our biggest priorities is in the area of collaborations, in the area of partnerships. And we're also trying to look at maybe replicating a couple of things that have worked in different ends. It's more like a trial to see and how best we can do that. We have a lot of opportunities in our country. I can say that more than actually weaknesses. There are a lot of strength really and opportunities in our country, but I think we still need a lot of people out there who have mastered this to be able to get us to do that. So yes, I'm very available in case of any connections to see and how best we can be able to involve different partners in this. Otherwise, I think this was good, and thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Ronald, and thank you everyone for joining, for listening in and learning about how to address these challenges that are in South Sudan. Uh, I would like to bring the session to an end. Thank you once again, and see you in the next session.
Before you end, I wanted just to thank him. This is Janan from Uganda,
Yes.
and they really tried to explain, and I've amazed on how you've done your stuff, and I'm planning to do so. Hope we can meet or we can have exchange contacts or email so that we can see each other how we can at least connect and do better in
Thank
our
you, Jimmy.
countries.
Thank you. I'm in
Okay.
Kampala, so I'll reach out to you. If you're in the group, please, I'll just text you. Thank you.
Oh, wow, in Kampala. Okay,
Yes, I'm in
fine.
Kampala
That's
right now.
where. Okay,
Yes.
fine. That's where. Because right now, even I'm within. Though right now, I'm at home in Kawanda.
No
That's
problem.
the same road which takes. All right. I'm so humbled
Thank you.
for meeting you online, and we shall discuss more. Ronald.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question concerning your exposure that was quite good. But I wanted to know there are many ideas that are given that you have in your brain, in your mind. But I want to know really how will you manage to put them into practice, in fact, and in which portion of time do you manage to put all these ideas in practice, really? Or you have started and there are still things to do? I want to know because we are facing some challenges that I like this one in some of our places. So I like to know how do you manage to put them into practice really can help
Yeah.
us to in our places.
Thank you. So for my end, my biggest challenge actually was first of all, gathering my community to be able to actively participate. So I realized one of the problems they had was access to devices. So like what I can say is right now I'm actually in Uganda to be able to purchase at least 20 computers. So in my end, I feel like that is something that is already because when I post in the group, everybody is really super excited to be able to begin actively participating because they were using phones and it's difficult to actually map on phones. So now since we have access to devices, and now we're going to have access to internet. The last time I approached an internet provider, we're looking at how best do we strike out a partnership to be able to do this. And we're so thankful. We have MTN in our country. They have CSR programs, the corporate social responsibility programs, and they actually offer sometimes internet accessibility to organizations that have a purpose that is somehow connected to theirs. So that is one thing that I'm hitting up to, and it's I can say 80% successful, and we look up to that. So for me, what I can tell you, maybe for your community, I'm not so sure really what challenges you're facing, but what I can say is that first identifying the challenges and being able to see what stakeholder is around you that can be able to solve it can be really good. For us, of course, even though the challenges are there, I've identified a couple of stakeholders that I know that I'm fixing them one by one. And like the issue of mapping, I can assure you this within at least 1 month, we should be able to get it done. But yeah, most of them, they really take time. And one of the things I've realized, just don't hurry. Like when you rush, there is a way you become overwhelmed and you just can't solve every problem. So I try to take my time to fix a lot of these things. Yeah.
Awesome. Any more questions? All right. Thank you, Ronald, again, and see you guys in the next session.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. You are,